Welcome back. This is TPC MAAP Algebra 1 2024. We are still working on practice set 2, and today we will work 5 more items like the last 5 items in the practice set. Go ahead and go down to the show notes and get the link to the official MAAP website. You can log in with me and work these problems with me. When you get to the MAAP practice test website, the first thing you'll do is select Test Math and grade Algebra 1. And today we're going back into the practice session. Click Start Test, Continue, X to get out of the tutorial. Click on Start Test. The first test item we're going to look at is item number 17. Click on Review, click on 17, and it will take you directly to the item. This is your typical graphing question, so this is exactly what the graphing calculator is here for. Go ahead and click on the button at the bottom that says Calculator. Move this over, and I'm going to enlarge it. Now you might want to make this look exactly like this graph, but for this particular problem, I don't think that's going to be necessary, so I'm going to skip that part. And I'm just going to type in the first answer choice, which is A. F of x equals, the absolute value symbols on your keyboard are right above Enter on the right-hand side of your keyboard. You'll hit Shift and then hit that if you're using a keyboard. The kids also have this keypad at the bottom, and if you open this up, you have absolute value symbols right here above ABC. So that's another way to type that. My students and I, probably because I prefer typing everything on the actual keyboard and not using the keyboard that's provided inside the Desmos calculator. Well, right off the bat, I see the vertex of this graph is located in the first quadrant, and we're looking for a vertex in the third quadrant, so this one won't work, and neither will B for the same reason. If I put a 3 here and a 1 here, again, the vertex is in the incorrect quadrant. So let's try C. We'll put a plus here and a minus here, and that will work. The graph is translated 3 left and down 1, so the correct answer is answer choice C. The next item that we'll look at is item number 18. We're given a scatter plot, and we're giving 4 functions, 4 equations, and we're looking for the equation that best fits this scatter plot. So step 1 is I'm going to open my graphing calculator. I'm going to move this over, and we're going to spend some time on this graph because we want to try to make this graph look as much as we can like the one here with the same kind of spacing and numbering, and so it's much easier to compare the lines with the scatter plot that's on the actual test. So click the wrench in the top right corner for your graph settings, and on the add label here I'm going to add number of weeks. So I want to add these same labels. This is X, so I'm going to put a comma and then X, and I'm going to count by ones. I'd like to go from 0 to 12, and I am supposed to count by ones. You'll notice all these tiny grid lines, those are called minor grid lines. I'm going to take those out by unchecking that. The Y values go from 0 to 40, so I'm going to put a 0 here and a 40 here. And if you'll look at the numbers, they are counting by 4s. So we're going to put a 4 here. The label is going to be height in inches. I'll say height in inches. And that is Y. They have that label on there too, so we'll put it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And I'm going to move this over to get it as square as I can, maybe pull it up a little bit. So you see how the graph is square. So our goal is to make it as square as we can. And then we're going to start typing in our functions. So I'm going to start with answer choice A. After we type answer choice A, you'll notice that this graph is way down here. And the points in this graph, if you notice where those are, they're going way up here to like 1236. You could even add 1236 to your graph if you wanted to, but there's no way this line is going to go through those points. So we're going to eliminate this answer choice. The answer eliminator is at the bottom. So if you click on that, you can click on this answer, and we've just ruled that one out. So let's go ahead and look at answer choice B. It's got the same slope, but this time it's plus. I don't think this slope's going to work, but let's look at it anyway. So again, it's way too low on the graph. The graph is very flat. It probably needs to be much steeper to fit in this grid like these points are. So we're going to eliminate that one too. Let's go ahead and look at answer choice C. Now our slope is much steeper on this one, so I'm expecting this one to look a little bit better. So 3.18W plus 3.78. And that one looks pretty good. If I had to guess, that's probably going to go right through the middle of those points pretty well. But just to be on the safe side, let's type in the last answer choice and see what that one looks like. Now I'm seeing a negative y-intercept. I don't think this one, well, it might actually have a y-intercept that's negative, come to think of it. So let's see. All right, so both of these look pretty good. So the question is, which one is better? Well, the next thing we can do is add some points to the graph that mirror some of the points on here and see which of these lines it goes on. Before we do that, however, it's super important that we change the color of one of these so that they don't look just the same. So I'm going to change the second line to blue by pressing and holding this dot and choosing blue. And so now the blue one is the one that's negative 4.14. That is your answer choice D. And the red one is answer choice C. So when I add an ordered pair, let's choose, how about 3, 4? Looks like that point is about 3, 4. 3, 4 is below the blue line. It's nowhere near that red line. So I'm guessing 3, 4, the blue line's looking better. Let's do another one just to be safe. Let's do one way up here, 1132. Looks like it's right on 1132. So I'm going to type 1132 and I'm going to label that. And look at that. It's really close to that blue line. So both points are very close to the blue line. Neither are close to the red line. So we're going to say the best choice in this situation is answer choice D. The next problem we're looking at is question number 21. We're asked for the average rate of change of a function on an interval. So open your graphing calculator. Let's move this over. And I'm going to first type in the function. So it's f of x equals 3x squared minus 5. Now we're using the interval from -3 to -1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type f of -3. And then I'm going to type f of -1. And so what I want to know is the rate of change from f of -3 to f of -1. And that is simply the slope of a line that connects 2 points. So to make this easier to see in the graph, and this is optional, I'll sometimes add an ordered pair. The first ordered pair, the input was -3 and the output was 22. So the ordered pair is -3, 22. The second ordered pair is -1, -2. And so now I see that on the graph. Now it would be nice if I could see both of these. So if you'll use your graph settings, change your y value to something larger than 22, maybe 25. And there it is. So these are my 2 points. And I'm looking for the slope. Now it's not a multiple choice question, so I can't just choose one. But if I did have a multiple choice question, I would know that this slope is negative because this is decreasing from this point that is in green to this point, which is purple. But we're simply going to subtract our y's and then subtract our x's. This is a simple slope problem. So let's take y2, which is negative 2, minus y1, which is 22. That's negative 24. I'm going to highlight all of that and hit divide, which is right next to your shift key on the right side of your keyboard, right under the question mark. Then I'm going to subtract the x's in the same direction. So I'm going to start with negative 1, and then I'm going to subtract negative 3. So the difference in y's is negative 24. The difference in x is 2, positive 2. So the answer is actually negative 12. And so you're going to type this number here, negative 12. I do want to point something out to you on the Mississippi test specifically. When you're asked to type something into a box, there is never going to be a problem where you have to round off the answer and type in the box. I know it does say round to the nearest whole number or use a whole number sometimes in directions, but in general, when we were writing these tests, they instructed us to stick with integers. So if you're getting a really messy answer on a problem like this, it's good to tell your kids it's probably wrong. You need to go back and look at that again because you should get a nice integer answer anytime you're typing a number into a box on one of these tests. Let's go to the next item. The next item we're looking at is question 28. We're given a function, a of h, and we're asked to determine what the 0.75 represents in the function. So what we're going to do is create a table for this problem. Click on the calculator, type in your function, so a of h, and you can capitalize it or not, but you have to stay consistent. So I'm not going to capitalize it. I'm just going to do lowercase, but I have to consistently do lowercase. You can't switch back and forth in Desmos. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is create a table so that I can examine what the numbers are doing, because I'm being asked here, how is the amount of medication changing? Is it increasing or decreasing, and by what percent? And a real simple way to determine that is to make a table and look at the actual numbers and see. So I'm going to always start at 0 on one of these, and then I'll go up a few times. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 should be plenty. I'm going to move this over, stretch it out. All right, so let's see. Instead of y1, I don't want y1. What I want is a, and I'm going to use a lowercase a, and I'm going to put x1, not h. I'm using x1 because the column on the left side of my table says x1, and I would like for those numbers to get plugged in to this formula, and it will output the numbers for me. So I can instantly see the number started at 600, which makes sense. That 600 was in that equation for that starting amount, and the numbers are decreasing. So I can immediately eliminate a couple of these answer choices. So let's do that. Let me move this over. All right, so let's see. It's decreasing. So I know answer choice A is not going to work because it says it increases. And answer choice C is not going to work because it says it increases. So let's go ahead and look at the other two answer choices. Does it decrease by 25% or by 75%? Well, one quick way to do that is to first take the difference in the numbers, any two numbers, but I'm going to just use the first two numbers, 600 and 450. And then I'm going to type that number divided by the first number that I used. So I did use 600. It went down 150. So if I do 150 divided by 600, I get 0.25. Maybe your kids can already tell it's not dropping super fast. It's not 75%. They may not even need to type that. They can just use their number sense to get the answer. But you can always divide the numbers and see. It decreased 150, and that's out of 600, that's only 25%. So we're going to say answer choice B is the only one that works. The last question we'll look at is question 30, and we're given a function again, h of t, and then we're asked to figure out which of these statements are true. Notice there are 5 statements, and if there are 5 statements, 2 of them will be correct. Click on your calculator, type in your function, once your function is typed in, let's create a table to make our graph much better. And to do that, click on the plus sign and the table. In the left side, we always start at 0, maybe even -1, but don't go any higher than that. And then do a few of the seconds. These are usually really low numbers, so 3 or 4, 0 to 4 is probably plenty. For your y, you want to take that out and put h of x1. Again, we're using the 1 because that's what's in the column on the left side of our table, x1. Now I can see right off the 4 doesn't even make sense, neither does the 3, so I'll just stop at 3. So the question is, which statements are true? Now this graph is so tiny. So what I'm going to do to fix it is click on this little plus sign here that says zoom fit. And now I can see my parabola a little bit better. Still kind of big. It's because of this -14 here. Now if you want, you can go in and change the labels on the graph if you think that will help. The t is your input. That's like your x1. So you would put the time for the x-axis, and your y is your height. That's like your h of t or your y. So let's see if we can answer some questions. The highest elevation is 10 meters. So I'm going to click here, and that is not true. The elevation or height of the diver is at 6. That's the highest point on the graph. Tell kids maximum height, vertex, highest. Those kind of go together in this case. So we will not choose answer choice A, the diver's highest elevation. The diver's initial height is 5 feet above the water. So click here. That is not true. It looks like the initial height is not 5 meters, but 1 meter above the water. The diver enters the water after approximately 2.1 seconds. Okay, that might be true. That's where the parabola will intersect 0. The height is 0 when it's on the x-axis. So this point has a y of 0, and the x is 2.095. That is really close to 2.1 seconds. So that one would be correct. The diver enters the water after approximately negative. Well, first of all, over here, this might be a true point on the graph, but it's outside the context. So a negative time does not make sense. So hopefully your students wouldn't pick that one. And then it says the diver is again at the same height. Let me move this over. As the diving board at 2 seconds. Well, the diving board is where they started. That's 0, 1. And at 2 seconds, they're back at the 1. So that is also correct. The correct answers were the third answer and the last answer. That concludes the 10 types of questions that are in the practice set that I've created for you. To find the practice set, which is free until next Monday, that's March the 11th, you will go to my store. The link to this page is in the show notes. So just go down and click on that link to get here. And then if you'll scroll down where it says best sellers, choose most recent, and it will show you the things I've just created recently, and this is one of those things. Here it says TPC MAAP Algebra 1 Practice Set 2, and in this set, the last 5 items are just like the 5 items I just did with you, so you can have your kids practice those items. If you'd like to do these items with your own kids that I'm showing you in this video, then you could turn around and have your kids work on these 5 items themselves and see what they are able to do. There is a paper answer document that goes along with this. I showed y'all this in the last video, but again, you can go to Formative or Edulastic, which is now called Peer Assessments, and there's just lots of ways to get this digitized. So I'm just going to leave that part up to y'all. But if you have questions about that, leave a comment. I can direct you to some pretty cool places to digitize your work. The standards are, there's I think 9 or 10 different standards in this set. So you do get to practice a variety of types of items. Do note that we are using the Mississippi version of the Desmos graphing calculator. So when you are doing your practice set, it's important you're giving them that one, because not everything is the same in these calculators. In fact, you'll really note the difference when you get into statistics. They've kind of turned off pretty much all of that. And once again, if you have any questions about this particular practice set, or if you just need help figuring out what you're doing, please leave a comment and I will get back to you. Y'all have a great day.